What can you tell me about the Holocaust? Yes. 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 Mostly against Jews. Not just Jews, other people too. Black people and disabled people, gypsies, gay people, but again, mostly against the Jews, yes. And Wikipedia will say the Holocaust was the systematic murder of Europe's Jews by the Nazis and their collaborators between 1941 to 45. That's when most of the killing happened. Of course, there was lots of discrimination and problems before that. I'm going to give you a quick timeline. The Holocaust. I'm going to talking about the politics and the rise of Hitler and the political reasons that can take months, and I really want to focus on people's how they experienced the Holocaust. That some people tell you it started right after World War I. When Germany was defeated after World War I, there was something called the Treaty of Versailles, which really punished Germany heavily for starting World War I, demanded reparations, repayment. It was very heavy, and for that reason, that helped. It was not good for the German economy, and when the Great Depression started, things were even worse, setting up reasons why someone like Hitler could appeal to people to take back the pride and everything. Hitler he started early. He had his followers. There was something called a beer hall putsch, like a riot, if you will. He was arrested, went to jail for 9 months, got out, still very popular, even in jail. People loved him. He got out, and then later he was made Chancellor, the President of Germany. The Weimar Republic appointed him Chancellor, and when the president died, the office of the president was abolished, and he was the Führer, the leader, and so that was over with. Okay, Hitler was appointed Chancellor. I'm going to go back to the timeline for a moment. I think, in my opinion, the day that Germany was really, really doomed, and there was no turning back, was July 14th, 1933. Because that's a day they made a law called the Law Against the Formation of Parties. You couldn't form new political parties. And as of that day, the only legal political party in Germany was the Nazi Party. My friends, if you get to a point where only one political party is legal in your country, you're in big, big trouble. And at this point, it was only going to get worse. So over the years, there were many since 1933, many anti-Jewish laws passed. Jews couldn't ride on trains, and if you had a civil service job, you lost it. Germans were strongly discouraged from going to Jewish-owned businesses. There was a limit on the number of Jewish children who could attend public schools. Not that I would want my kid to attend a school, because they were harassed and heard all kinds of anti-Semitic stuff against them. I wouldn't send my kid to such a school. Many historians will tell you that the official start of the Holocaust was with Kristallnacht, basically a government-sanctioned pogrom, violence against the Jews of Germany and Austria. Most people participated, or at least stood by. It was Kristallnacht, means night of broken glass. And the reason they called it that is part of the destruction was breaking all the glass things they could, windows, of houses and businesses and stores, synagogues, smashed. Houses, when they broke into houses, glassware and mirrors, everything breakable, broken. So that's what they called it, that. I'm going to go back a bit about Kristallnacht.
House is on fire. Luckily, there's a firefighter on the scene. But he's doing nothing to help. Why? The Nazis set the house on fire because its owners were Jewish and instructed firefighters and police not to intervene. So most stood by. Thousands of other Jewish buildings were also destroyed, all across German territory, all in one night. The Nazis were violently targeting Jews just for being Jewish. And they were supported by those whose job it was to protect everyone. This event reminds us that the Holocaust would not have been possible without the help and choices of ordinary people. This house...
So let that sink in. Houses, buildings were being set on fire, and there was a policeman there, but he wasn't trying to put out fire, wasn't trying to stop people from setting fires. He was la la la. Is that acceptable for a policeman to, a fireman to not put out fires? No. No. And the policemen were just as bad, and that's why that came out first. So I want to get rid of that. I want to show part of a film about a survivor of Kristallnacht. Yeah. Susie Hilsenbach, her maiden name, was born in 1929 in Germany. So she was a child when Kristallnacht happened. So this is how she experienced it. So dismiss, change chapter settings. I don't know. I don't know how.
Do you want to add settings? Do you
Oh,
want to add?
I have to add it? Okay. I can't just,
You can dismiss. What do
Dismiss.
you want? Do you want captions or no captions?
if you want captions for people, it'll make it easier to do that. I didn't do that before in my room.
On the night of my mother's birthday, it was the eve of November the 10th, and my brother and I were very excited about my mother's birthday coming up, and we went to sleep in our bedroom, and I think it must have been maybe 11 or maybe a little bit later than 11 o'clock at night. All of a sudden, some bricks and rocks were being thrown through our window. And my brother was always braver than me. He was a year younger, but he was braver, and I was hiding under the blanket, and he went to the window to check to see what was going on. And he told me that it was the people in our neighbors, the people of our town, were throwing the bricks and rocks through the window. And he also told me that the civil policeman in our town was standing on the edge of the crowd, and he didn't do anything about it.
Let this sink in for a moment. These people are just at home, the children are in bed, most adults are too after 11, and people are throwing bricks in the window, and you look out and you find out, one, the people throwing the bricks were your neighbors, the people you had waved good morning to and had coffee with and played soccer with, were the ones throwing these bricks. And maybe worse, there was a policeman, just standing there, not telling them to stop, just la 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 la. It's getting bad.
So we became very frightened, and we started to go across to, the hall to our parents' bedroom. Now, while we were crossing the hall, our front door is at the end of the hall. Some of the people had uprooted a telephone pole, and they smashed the front door down, which was made out of this beautiful colored glass. And they smashed it down, and they came running through the hallway, and they were running to go upstairs to the second floor.
Okay, explain. A telephone pole, you see telephone poles outside for electricity. The next day, uprooted one to take it, and this lady's family lived on the first floor. The rabbi's family was on the second floor. There was a non-Jewish family on the third floor. The fourth floor was the attic, and you'll understand why that's important in a moment. But can you imagine people so desperate to break into your building? They uproot telephone pole. Okay, this is a telephone pole, okay? And together the door. Have you ever been desperate enough to go uproot a telephone pole to break into someone's house? No, that is crazy. Now, in the meantime, we went to our parents' bedroom where they were sleeping, and we asked them what's happening, and again, they didn't want us to worry. They said, well, we don't know what's happening right now, but for now we will hide in the attic of our building. We lived on the first floor, and the teacher of our town lived in that room next to us. And then on the second floor lived the rabbi. And that's what those townspeople were doing with that telephone pole. They wanted to go through our apartment to get to the second floor to get to the rabbi. And on the third floor lived a non-Jewish family, and then on the fourth floor was the attic. So that's what we did. We went up to the attic, and there we met the family of the rabbi who was already up there. Now the rabbi wasn't there, and we wanted to know what had happened to him. And so I looked through this little window of the attic, and I saw the rabbi standing on his veranda, and there were two, I guess they were SS men. They were holding him by the arm, and another one came along with some kind of a scissor or implement, I don't remember. He held it and cut off his beard. And then later on I found out that he was hauled off to jail. And my father was sent to jail also, but he came back during the night, maybe after the first night. Now, they released him from jail, and I still do not know whether he was released from jail because he used to play chess with the chief of police, or because he was born in Poland and he had Polish citizenship. And our apartment was not ransacked too badly, but a lot of our furniture was broken and a lot of things were missing, but you could still live in it. However, the rabbi's apartment, when the people had rushed up there during the eve of my mother's birthday, they burned all of his books. He had this beautiful library, and they got torn and burned, and his furniture was really destroyed. And the people who were... This beautiful library. So he was a rabbi, especially a big synagogue. They didn't say it, but I kind of imagine this wall from top to bottom covered with books. Beautiful books, expensive books, old books, hard to get books. How would you feel if someone came in, ransacked your place, destroyed your furniture, and burned all of your books? Yeah. Pretty mind-boggling. Okay, I'm not gonna show the rest of this because there's more to it. I'll tell you, her story had a happy ending. During the war, soon after this, her father found a lady who he paid to make fake IDs, and this other lady passed her and her brother off as her children, brought them to France during the war, and then after the war, her family was reunited and they moved to the United States. That story had a happy ending, thank God. But the person I'd like to focus on a little bit more, her name was Eva Fogel Galler. Okay, I never met Susan, the lady we just heard from. I never met her. But the other lady, Eva Galler, I did meet her. Her daughter, Linda, and I were friends in a girls' club in high school, and that's how I met Mr. Henry and, well, her husband, Mr. Henry, and Miss Eva. I spent many, many hours in Miss Eva's kitchen and even more hours in Mr. Henry's tailor shop. He started a very successful business in New Orleans called Mr. Henry's Tailor Shop. In fact, I worked there, and we go back. So, and they were from Poland. First, I'm gonna go. I have two. I'm going to speak more about Miss Eva than Mr. Henry, simply because there was more on YouTube about Miss Eva. I didn't find much, really didn't find anything about Mr. Henry. I should say also, I really tried to find a living survivor to come here and talk to, but unfortunately, most of them have died already, and those who haven't are very old. They really can't get on the subway and come here, and they need someone to bring them here. If that, it was too complicated, and for that, I'm sorry. But anyway, this is the second best thing. Okay, Miss Eva is going to talk about some humiliation in the marketplace.
The motorcycles came first, and the tanks, and they right away wanted to scare the people, not just the Jews. When they went through the main street, they shot whoever was on the street was shot. The main objective was just how to start to degrade the Jews. Before they killed them, they had to degrade them, to turn into nothing.
And then one day the Nazis summoned the Jewish population to the marketplace.
They told us to assemble everybody out from the house, old people, sick people, children, everybody had to go out to the market square. If not, they would be killed. Well, we came out the market square, and here we see a bonfire. A bonfire made from all the Jewish prayer books from the synagogue. They emptied out the synagogue, the Torah scrolls, the books, everything what they found in the synagogues. There were 3 synagogues in the city, from all the synagogue, and they put them on the bonfire. When we came to the city, they put a match, they started the bonfire. At the same time we turned our heads, at the same minute, we saw all the 3 synagogues on fire. When the fire started, they pushed the young girls to take the old men to dance. You should dance. Everybody around, we cried, and our neighbors were standing around all the people because you knew everybody. It's a small city. The non-Jews watched like a show and left, and we cried. The feeling that time was so painful. Looked at we are nothing. I remember I looked a dog past the street and I felt like this. I was a young girl and I felt, look, that dog is luckier than I am. I envied him. I saw he had a master, he was fed. We didn't have anybody to take our side. They were able to do with us what they wanted. So after the fire subsided, they told us to line up 4 by 4 and march through the whole city. It was the unhappiest, I think, well, next to losing everybody, that was a very unhappy moment in my life. The motorcycles came first.
I think that was bad. That was horrific. But things got even worse. The next one, they called it jumping off the train. I think it's closer to the truth to say that Eva and her brother and sister were pushed off the train. Her parents pushed her off. You'd think that sounds terrible, to push your children off of a train. Today we wouldn't do it, but it gave them a chance to survive. Keep that in mind.
Yes. In 1943, in January, it was so cold, the coldest. We were shivering in the houses because we didn't have any wood to make warm the houses. And it was so cold. German trucks came in. They went from house to house to chase out everybody from the house. And everybody whom they didn't find before, they found them later, or those people who were hidden and they weren't discovered. When they came out, they found them and they were shot later. And they walked us to the train station. I remember the snow was crunching under the shoes because it was so cold outside. Everybody was shaking. And we came to the train station. They were already cattle trains waiting for us. And the German soldiers told everybody to go in.
Cattle, okay, that was a misspell. Cattle cars. You know what a cattle car is? They talked about the trains, but when the people were put on trains, it wasn't like you sit down and they had seats. Cattle cars are parts of a train that they used to move horses and cows and cargo and the like. So the people were standing and squished together.
Went to the train and they were hitting and children were crying. It was a big chaos by the station. It is difficult to describe because families wanted to keep together and somebody was lost and they were screaming. Finally, we were inside and the door from outside was closed, locked from outside. When we came and we were stuck inside like herrings next to each other. And they were the barbed wires on those little windows. So everybody tried who was close to that window to pull out those barbed wires. In the meantime, the German soldiers, the SS people, were sitting on the roof. They went on the roof, they were warm dressed, of course, they were prepared that time for that weather. And they were watching, nobody should escape. And so when the train started moving, people started to crawl out, pushed from inside from that little window. as the people went out, we heard shots. We couldn't see anything, but we heard shots.
Picture this again. People squished in this cattle car. There were the windows, but you had to pull away the barbed wire. You know what barbed wire is? It's got all the sticky things on it, and if you touch it, you'll hurt yourself. But no, they were willing to do it. There were also soldiers on top of the train. So if someone got up, they would shoot. So that was a scene. People did try to get out through the window.
Finally, my father, and that was the last time my father spoke to me. And he said, "You oldest of three, you three, like for me, my sister Hannah, my brother next to it, you go out. Maybe somebody will survive to be able to tell what is happening to us, because we know where we are going, and we have to stay with the little children together, because the little children, no matter what, they won't be able to survive, even if they were free." But my little brother, the youngest, who was 3 years old, and he started to cry, "I want to live too, I want to live too." And these words stayed with me for the whole life, no matter how I tried to forget.
Also at this point, the father, they said they knew they were going to die. Officially, the Holocaust, they didn't talk about it at that time. People didn't really know where they were going. There were rumors, there were lots and lots of rumors by this time, and the rumors unfortunately turned out to be true, but they didn't exactly know at the time, but they knew it was bad. That was bad enough. So that was a good reason to get the kids off the train and hope for the best.
Anyhow, we first my brother jumped, he was the first. Then my sister, I was the last one. When I jumped, pushed out from inside, I ended up in a deep ditch of snow. And probably and they shot after me too. But as the train was in motion, they somehow the bullet didn't hit me. The bullet didn't hit me, that even didn't touch me. And I listened, and I heard the train, and when the train, I didn't hear any more any noise. The train passed by. I got up, and the first thing that we Jewish in our city, some cities wore yellow stars. We had an armband with a star. I took off that.
More clarification. When the Nazis took power, they required Jews to self-identify. In most places, you may have seen pictures of people with yellow stars on the jacket. In some places, they wore an armband with the yellow star. That's what she's talking about. And not being caught without the star was a crime.
Armband, and I said, "No more, I'm not wearing it. Whatever happened, I'm not wearing it anymore."
The armband with the Star of David.
It's Star of David, yes. And I walked back first to find my sister and my brother. But as I walked back, I saw just corpses. All those people whom I knew everybody. It was a small Jewish community that you knew. Everybody was dead. I found my sister and my brother dead. From that train, I was the only one to survive. Yes. In 1940.
Yes. Later, Mr. Henry, Miss Eva's husband, told me that out of about 3,000 Jews in that town, 7 survived, and I couldn't wrap my head around that. So anyway, she jumped or got pushed, a little bit of both, from the train, and she ran to a Polish friend's house, a non-Jewish Polish friend, and she stayed with that friend for a couple of nights. And I should say, the friend was putting her own life in danger, because hiding Jews was another crime, and you could get killed for it. But she let Eva stay for a couple of nights, but also got Eva fake ID papers. Gave her a Polish name, Katrina, and I forgot the last name. So from then until the end of the war, Ms. Eva passed as a Polish Catholic girl, Katrina. But that wasn't the end of it, because the Nazis were also rounding up non-Jews in the countries that they occupied. They needed workers in their factories and their farms and whatever in Germany and in the areas they were occupying. So Eva did end up being captured by the Nazis, but they captured her as a Polish girl, and she worked on a farm. Which brings me to the next story, which is not on YouTube. I'll check again one day, but this is something Miss Eva told me directly. I call this story the confessional. First of all, may I ask, is anyone here Catholic? Anyone here Catholic? Okay, so you know, a confessional, for those who don't know, in Catholic Church they have something called confessional, that you go and confess your sins to the priest. And the priest usually forgives you, usually tells you to say some prayers. So a confessional, imagine a wooden box, and there's 3 parts. The priest is in the middle part, and he's got a wall on each side with a little window. So when he moves the window on your side, you pray to him and, bless me, Father, I have sinned. I did this. I didn't do my English homework. I yelled at my teacher at Kaplan. I did these bad things, whatever. And then forgives you. Okay, so that's what a confessional is. So, and those that go, now, passing as a non-Jew was difficult for many reasons. Religion was one reason. Eva grew up in an observant Jewish family and had never studied Catholicism. Being in Poland, she had heard Christmas carols in the streets of Christmas, and she knew what a Christmas tree was, and passed by churches. I knew what a crucifix was, but hadn't studied the religion. So, shortly before Easter one year, the Catholic farmer's wife suggested that, hey, it was time to go to confession before the holiday, and they would be hearing the confession the next day, something. Okay, well, this is terrifying, because the confessional is very private. When you're in the confessional, it's just you and the priest, and the priest doesn't even see you. He kind of looks ahead and listens to you. The person on the other side doesn't hear you. They may see you go into the confessional, but they don't hear you, so it's just you and the priest. So what do you say? Okay, Catholic children, they, before their first confessional, they know what to do. They're told what to do and what the priest will say. She had not, and you don't see it in movies, you don't see it done in the streets like Christmas carols. What do you do in a confessional? And this was stressing her out. But she was very lucky for 2 reasons. One, she spoke fluent German. In fact, that's what her family spoke at home. They spoke German. They were Polish Jews, but they spoke German. 2, one of the priests hearing confession that day was a German priest who spoke limited Polish. So she chose to go to him because she was hoping that maybe he would feel that her lack of knowing what to say was due to a language barrier. She didn't speak German to him. She pretended to be a Polish girl who spoke limited German. But fortunately, it worked out. He guided her what to say, at least in German. So the next time she had to go, she knew what to say, at least to someone who spoke German. I think that's a frightening experience, but survived it. So after the war, everyone who survived tried to get back to their hometown to find family and friends and find out what was what with their homes and whatever. So after the war, she ran into this old friend of hers, Henry Galler. Their parents had been friends before the war, so they knew each other. Some reporters tried to make it sound like Henry and Eva were childhood sweethearts. I'm not sure I quite believe that, but they were friends. Their families knew each other, they were friends. So they moved to Sweden. They got married in Sweden very shortly after this. Lived in Sweden for 7 years, then moved to New York, and then they moved to New Orleans, where I met them. And they had 3 daughters, one born in Sweden, and the others in New Orleans. Eva would continue. She worked as a part-time teacher, and Mr. Henry ran a store called Mr. Henry's Tailor Shop. I spent many happy hours. Both of them became very popular in the community, the Jewish community as well as the New Orleans civic community. They spoke at many schools about their experiences. When Hurricane Katrina struck, they moved to Houston. They had a daughter in Houston. It was supposed to be a short stay, but Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, so they ended up staying there. Ms. Eva died in 2006. Mr. Henry died 2012. Oh, and one more thing I should tell you about Ms. Eva. When she was in her 60s, guess what she did? She started university.
Wow.
She went back to school, yeah. When her youngest daughter graduated, one of the professors said, well, Eva, it's your turn. She said, my turn for what? College, school. It was a little bit of a problem. She didn't have any of her transcripts in high school because of the war, everything destroyed. But she got into the University of New Orleans and graduated 1985. They valued education very much. So I think if Mr. Henry and Ms. Eva were here and could talk to you, they would say 2 things. 1, don't hate people. Hate leads to bad things. And 2, go to class. Your parents are paying good money to send you here, or you're spending good money, depending on your age. And that's about it. But before we finish, I want to say a special thank you to Ashley and Josh for arranging for this presentation happen. And thank you to Rinsei Fukumoto and Yoshiyuki Tagaki for helping me put the finishing touches on this and giving me input. Thank you.
And for anyone who is semi-intensive, please sign up for K Plus credit right here. If you have questions and you're not sure what that means, come over here and I'll
Yes.
explain.
Okay, Ashley, are you taking it? Or
Yep.
should I-
Yep, we'll
Okay,
just
you'll
put it
take it.
here.
Thank you. Okay. No, but should I take it?
I'll take it. I'll take it. We'll
Thank you.
insert it for you. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Sorry.